What's up everyone, it's Speed, and in this video we're going to be going over my top 5 favorite drafts from TI so far. There's been a lot of cool new heroes that I didn't know were even good. There's been ET, there's been Mirana, Ogre Magi was, coming in. There's definitely other opinions from people that were saying that hero was good, but it's been great to watch so far, and here are the top 5 drafts in my opinion. This pro guide you're about to see is one of hundreds, just like it, over at gameleap.com. Gameleap is your #1 stop to become a specialist in your desired role fast. Check us out today with the discount link in the description below to unlock your hidden potential, but for now, let's hop into the video. So the first draft that I found very interesting was this take on teamfighting from Royal Never Give Up. They opened very early on with a lot of teamfight. They have an AT, a Tidehunter, a Shaman, an Underlord, and a Gyro. Right, a really weird draft because when I look at that, I don't even see a mid laner, right? Like, it's just not there. But they innovate, they pull out this super interesting Underlord mid, and are able to actually make a fantastic comeback. At some point, they were 8k behind in this game, and they managed to take this amazing Roche fight that was predicated off this amazing Echo Stomp from the Elder Titan. In fact, I just felt like their draft always, no matter how the state of the game was going, they would be allowed to make a comeback, right? Just for the fact that they have this Call Down, Ravage, Echo Stomp, Earth Splitter in combination with the Natural Order, there's always a chance they win the fight, and I love that. I think at TI, when team fighting around the Roche Pit is such a big deal, this is just a nice draft to have. And not only that, I'm a huge fan of creativity in drafting. I think pulling out anything like an Underlord as a potential TA counter is amazing, right? Or having this ability to flex. The second thing I want to mention is I feel like ET is definitely proving to be one of the best heroes of this tournament, if not like the best hero of this tournament. Regardless of stats, its laning presence just enables so many different heroes in Dota. For instance, Gyrocopter is completely enabled by Elder Titan. Typically, Gyrocopter has this very mediocre laning stage, but throughout the laning stage, Elder Titan has no problem zoning out any heroes and getting Gyro off to the start that he really needs. In fact, in this game, he does a generally good job of zoning out Blissey to some extent, who is cutting out waves with his axe. So, in general, huge fan of this hero. Hope to continue seeing it throughout the tournament. Definitely will. And is a great hero to have with Gyrocopter. So just that combo, in my opinion, makes a great draft. The next draft we have was Keen Gaming against Liquid. And this was the game where Liquid last picked an Earthshaker safe lane. Yes, you heard that right, an Earthshaker safe lane as a response to a Phantom Assassin. Yes, at some point in the game, we saw the Earthshaker with a Satanic and a Daedalus almost one-shot the Phantom Assassin and get all the way back up to 100% HP. Like, one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Hype reaction from the casters. It was unbelievable. Who picks Earthshaker as a response to Phantom Assassin as a safe laner? Like, I've seen it in lane. No problem, right? It makes sense. You get 100% True Strike on your Enchant Totem as a counter, but in general, like, really fascinating. I love when teams do this, especially OG, which we'll be talking about, just going completely outside the box and experimenting with seemingly no core or safe laner. And their base opener this tournament, I think, is probably the best, or one of the best of the tournament, which is Shadow Demon Elder Titan. It gives you some of the best tri-lane potential in the game with Echo Stomp and Disruption, right? You set up the Echo Stomp with the Disruption if needed, and, some of the best team fight. If you manage to land a Soul Catcher as well as a Splitter on any one target, they literally pop. They're gone, like a balloon. It feels kind of maybe too strong, but nonetheless. And then they followed up with the Sand King, which I think is one of the better lane partners with Shadow Demon if you want to go for that option, but it also is a very strong hero with Elder Titan. Usually when you think of double melee, it might not be too overwhelming, but any stun with Elder Titan, it just makes that hero even more enabled. And the last thing I want to mention is Shadow Demon is a hero that naturally enables Earthshaker in the laning stage. It can be very hard to close the gap on Enchant Totem in the early levels, and I think Shadow Demon with the Earthshaker makes a lot of sense, and not to mention this Templar Assassin on top of all this gives them a nice mid laner that actually enables this Earthshaker, right? Without it, they might have a hard time scaling to some extent, right? Earthshaker scaled fine this game, no problem, but I think also if you were to see this in a pub, you would want something mid like a Dusa or an Alk to really set the tempo of the game and have some farming core. And all respect to Keen Gaming in this draft, right? I really did like the draft. I think the Witch Doctor Tiny is definitely not as meta for this tournament as something like the Shadow Demon and Elder Titan, but all due respect to them, they picked something they were very comfortable with, which is the Phantom Assassin. Ended the game with a Magnus, which I think was a very big confidence pick from them, saying, yeah, we're going to bring this game late, we're going to carry with our Phantom Assassin, and we're going to shove lanes with the Pangolier and the Tiny. And I like their game plan. but I think Liquid did a great job of addressing it. The next draft that we have was the newbie draft against Chaos Esports Club. Now this one was not fancy. You got no safe lane IO, no safe lane shaker, none of that trash. This is what you call a clean draft. In fact, if you're looking to learn how to draft, I think looking at a game like this is the perfect example where you don't try to do too much, right? Relax, guys. Not everyone's Liquid, right? You're not Secret. Maybe you shouldn't be picking support invoker. Maybe that's not the best option for you. Let's be real. It's not that easy to make it work. However, a draft like this, where you have a Mirana Kunkka opener, is absolutely fantastic for a couple reasons. At a base value, you have Mirana and Kunkka, 2 heroes that can flex into any lane. Literally, they can play any role. Anything. And as a result, your next 3 picks can be anything, right? So you can really address or just round out your draft very cleanly. And the next thing I want to say is Mirana and Kunkka give you a lot. They give you scaling, they give you control, and they give you lane shove, right? And I think that's a great formula just to having a draft that will work in most scenarios. They're not overthinking it, right? They just have a nice roundabout draft. Their follow-up to that is a Warlock support, which gives them the ability to pick a Spectre if they wanted. They could pick something greedier like a PA if needed. Any carry, really. And they opt for the Sven. Once again, that's just another solid hero. Where Chaos, on the other hand, honestly, like, I really was rooting for Chaos. I loved seeing them make it in. I'm all for Matama. Seems like a great guy. I love Kezu. I love his hero pool. But what's going on here? Bounty Hunter into Earthshaker, into Pudge, into Nature's Prophet. It just seems like a mishmash of heroes. And then they rounded out with a Slark, but the enemy team had a Kunkka and an Axe, which, like, you could argue Slark is fine against those heroes, but I just like the cleanliness of the newbie draft. And if you're looking how to learn how to draft, things like this where you just have a lot of control, you have scaling, team fight, solid lanes, I think that's just the general way to go. And the last thing I want to mention about this draft is that they pick the stun safe laner in the Sven, and you're like, okay, they have a Warlock and a Sven, this is just going to be your standard dual lane, but they last picked this Axe, and now they have a hero that can cut wave. And what that means is that you can immediately send a tri-lane, you can send the Mirana with the Sven, you stun, you arrow, and you're in. So I think that flexibility in the first picks with the Sven into the Axe makes a lot of sense. Up next is what I'm sure you all expected, and that was the OG draft with the safe lane IO. Now I know they've done it multiple times at this point, so maybe it's not that much of a shock. However, this variation of it was absolutely incredible. Like, the Chen Legion plus Troll with an IO, one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Something I've never even thought about, and I've theory crafted a lot of different drafts in my day. But this one was fascinating. The amped heal from the Chen with the IO and Legion allowed them to have seemingly insta-heal. It was as if people got cheesed. In a millisecond, the Troll Warlord was full HP and able to go back in. There was one team fight in which he ran in up the high ground, and you're like, what is this Troll Warlord doing? He's just gonna get kited. They deal like half of his HP, he doesn't overcommit BKB, no ulti, he runs back out, gets healed up to full, and you're like, oh, that's what he was doing. And it really was, it was bizarre, because at this point, like, the IO is like, okay, this is commonplace for OG. If you didn't know, they're picking IO safe lane. Ana is basically playing a hero that has been known to be a support for the longest time as a safe lane hero. And he's usually their Giga hard carry, he's usually the Spectre or the PL player, and he's just playing IO all of a sudden, which just goes to show how insane OG is as players and as a team. And then they round it out with this really clean troll pick, which, in my opinion, looked sketch. Like, I don't think the hero is necessarily great against ET, because it can get slept. It's not necessarily great against Crystal Maiden, because she can ulti and gain extra armor and frostbite you. Ember can kite you. Timber can kite you. He buys like Lotus and Yules. And then Morphling, like, you could argue he stuns, buys BKB, and he buys like E-Blade. But they were confident in enough in his ability to carry the game from the mid lane with their purges, their heals, and just in general, all the sustain they could provide. So I was really questioning this OG draft. I felt like they lacked something. They lacked the ability to actually enable this troll. I was totally wrong. I was unbelievably wrong. And the last thing that I noticed in this game, and that the casters pointed out, was that the Legion actually maxed her pressy attack. Seb, God. Like, I've seen this matchup before, and I knew as a Timber player that Legion can sustain the Timber lane, but they made a really cool lane swap where they had Legion go top against the Timber, max her pressy attack, which purges the Timbersaw Q debuff, which would absolutely dumpster IO, Earthshaker, and even a bit of Trolls damage. So brilliantly played, crazy good itemization from all their players, and yeah, just loved it. And last, but certainly not least, is Team Secret against Alliance. This is one of the earliest series of the tournament, and this is the series where Team Secret showed off the Invoker support. Yes, if you haven't gotten to watch TI and you think you didn't hear me right, that is correct. Yapsor, the support player for Team Secret, has played Invoker multiple times now, actually. In fact, so many times so, where I'm considering making a video on it. So in the comment section down below, if you'd like to see a full video on how he actually makes this work, what he does to actually enable this hero that has a pretty poor laning stage, let me know. But talking about the draft, once again, this Team Secret draft is clean. So the Invoker support is what really brought it to my attention and is why I want to include it in this video. But in general, it sort of reminds me of that newbie draft. They open up with the Kunkka Crystal Maiden, which is, once again, good flex. Crystal Maiden, of course, probably isn't going to play core. We have seen her as an offlaner in the past, but definitely not really in this tournament. But the Kunkka has been one of the top picks of this tournament as its ability to flex, which we talked about and I want to move on from. But then we see this third pick Invoker out of nowhere. I don't think anyone knew what was going on. We're like, mid one's playing Invoker, right? And out of nowhere, Yapsor locks it in at the end of the draft, right? And to talk about it a bit, it proved a ton of usefulness against, specifically in my eyes, the Tiny and the Troll. There was a few fights where Boxy was just completely drained out of mana. He got ganked, no mana, no response. And then in particular, there was one situation where Mickey was chilling on the side, gets EMP'd, can ulti. What do you do? It almost makes me think that Wex Invoker, the support, is like a hard counter to a hero like Troll that is so mana reliant in these fights, right? It might not seem like it, like, oh, why is a right clicker mana reliant? But actually more so than a lot of spellcasters because they have a low mana pool, and it absolutely dumpstered Mickey. But to go back to the point of rounding off the draft, it just makes a lot of sense to me what they're doing here. So they have a Gyrocopter, a hero that's very mana reliant. Kunkka, a hero that can cast a lot of spells, especially if played in the mid lane. You know, you might want to cast a lot of torrents to secure CS and harass your opponent. And then you also have, an Invoker and an Axe who can pressure a lane very hard with Battle Hunger and Cold Snap if they opt to. Now, that's not what happened in this game, but I think there's really good options with this aura and overall a solid draft of scaling and team fighting, right? Maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I really like when teams have this solid team fight of EMP, like this absolute massive team fight ability, call, boat, Crystal Maiden ulti, and call down. And to be fair, Alliance has their fair share. They have Terrorize from Dark Willow, they have the AoE spells from the Tiny, the Phoenix Egg, like, it's there. But then at the end of Alliance draft, they have a Lone Druid and a Troll Warlord, two heroes that can fight early, in fact, there are cores that maybe do it better than some others, but to what extent? Can they man up on a Gyro and, an Axe? Maybe, but not this game. Definitely didn't work out. Secret took the victory, and hopefully you enjoyed this video and give me a victory, which is a like. Thanks. Are you tired of being hard stuck at your rank? Over at gameleap.com, we have a library of hundreds of guides authored by pro players and coaches covering literally every aspect of Dota. Whether you're looking to master a new hero or role, or just polish up your existing skills, GameLeap is the proven place for competitive gamers to hone their craft and unlock their secret potential. Hit the link on screen right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount, guys. 25%, and start your journey today.